Kaylee, your friendly neighborhood hairstylist here. Has anyone else noticed that big hair is making a big old comeback? I think it is time to go through some tips and tricks for fuller and thicker looking hair. Let's get into it. Did anyone see big 90s shampoo commercial-esque hair coming back? Because I certainly did not have that on my bingo card, but I'm very excited about it. I thought today would be a good time to go through some of my favorite tricks for fuller, thicker looking hair. And in that endeavor, I want to take you guys from wet to dry to styling to styled today. I have filmed 2 routines in preparation for today's video, one with none of the tips and one with most of the tips. As with all of my tips and tricks videos, you can take or leave as many as you want. My biggest hope is to give you the ability to create what you want with your hair and to have fun doing it. So I hope that I'm able to help you in that endeavor. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. Before we jump in, I wanna say a quick thank you to Bumble and Bumble for sponsoring part of today's video. I have been a giant fan of their thickening line ever since it launched, and they just dropped some new products, and I am very excited about them. So we're gonna be talking about it, we're gonna show you guys, and I think you're gonna love it too. So, all that said, we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's jump into it and start with wet hair. Tip number 1 is to cleanse the hair effectively. If you feel like your hair stays weighed down, no matter what you do, you can't get the fluff and the bounce to it, there's a chance it's being weighed down. That could be because maybe your shampoo is not cleansing enough to remove all of the product or oil or any other kind of buildup that's on your hair. Or you might have a shampoo and or conditioner that have just a little too heavy of moisturizing ingredients for your hair. And you might just need to scale back that a little bit, maybe with a more cleansing shampoo, maybe with a lighter conditioner. It is definitely a delicate balance to find the right mix. But I think if you want just a quick little fix that you can throw into your routine, grabbing a clarifying shampoo, using it every couple weeks will definitely help you to have that, more cleansed hair so that it is able to be fluffy and bouncy and full of movement, which is the goal. Okay, tip number 2 is to swell the hair, which surprisingly is an option. There have been some really cool developments in hair care and styling technology since mousse first arrived on the scene in the 80s, and this is one of them. Generally, you refer to these as a thickening product, and there are a few on the market, but a standout for me is the newly launched Bumble and Bumble Thickening Plumping Mask. I don't know if you can tell how much of this I've used, but I have become a big fan very quickly. So what I like about it is that it's a mask that you put on in the shower after you shampoo, you let it sit for 2 to 5 minutes, then you rinse it out, style, and enjoy more voluminous looking hair. The cool thing about this is that it has Implica technology, which individually swells each hair strand so that your hair appears fuller and thicker. We love to see it! In addition to the Implica technology, it also detangles, strengthens, improves manageability, nourishes your scalp, and is designed not to weigh your hair down. And it's become a standout to me because I really can tell that my hair looks fuller when I use it, and I love how my hair feels and styles after using it. So it has become a very fast go-to for me. I also wanted to give an honorary mention to the Bumble and Bumble Go Big Plumping Treatment. This is a leave-in product. It also swells your individual strands, and it fights, frizz, strengthens, and protects from the heat. And I noticed when I use the mask and this together, it's game over. Fullness goals unlocked. I love it. So generally, use a product to help you swell the hair. Those 2 standouts for me. They work really, really well, and they leave my hair feeling great. And generally, this is another reason why starting on wet hair is important, because you just can't do the same thing on dry hair, and it makes such a difference. Tip number 3 is give your hair some structure. And I would recommend this most for people who, after you spend time drying volume into your hair, it's like, it just goes away as quickly as it took you to put it in. Now, of course, you can add volumizing and hold on dry hair later. We will absolutely be using another one of my favorites from the Bumble and Bumble thickening line. This is the Dry Spun Texture Spray. You've seen me use this for years and years. You also have the ability to do that while you're going from wet to dry. Adding in a mousse, cream, spray, primer that advertises hold is really going to help because it's going to add that hold. to hold the style that you put in. And you could also look for one that's advertising volumizing, as that can have some other benefits to it as well. And generally what any of those products are going to do is to kind of go around each hair strand and help it to have more memory and more stability in the shape that you put it in, therefore adding structure, which can be so good for people like me with really fine hair strands, because the finer the hair, the more limp it can be. It just doesn't always have that like robustness to just stay springy. So adding in products that add hold, especially when your hair is wet, can be a really good option for that. So I think if you really struggle to keep the volumizing practices that you're doing in on your hair, or have it still be like, you know, there an hour or two later, add in a product that has some hold. It's really helpful. Tip number 4 is to lift it. Now this one might seem obvious, but it is so important, we are not going to skip it, and we are going to talk about some of my tips for it. When I say lift it, I mean your hair. And I mean that you should do that while you are drying it. Because when your hair air dries, it air dries straight down, and it doesn't give your roots a lot of opportunity for movement. So we gotta get some movement in it. We gotta get some lift. And I have some very easy ways that I do that. And if you've been around for a while, you've seen like the general idea, but I want to talk through some tips that I've been thinking about lately that I don't know that I've like fully communicated. Generally, you just want to dry your hair in any direction other than where it is going to lay. Get creative with that prompt, but here's how I do it. I start with just my hairline and I pull it forward. I use a brush that is gentle but will still move my hair around, and I brush my hair down as I dry it. And then once that section's pretty dry, I pull a little bit more hair forward and I dry that, and then a little bit more hair forward and I dry that. And I like going in sections like that, first of all, because it helps me with the cowlicks around my face. It helps to direct them forward, make everything look good. But also, I find that it helps me to really get these areas, like my crown and back here in the back of my head, dry, because I'm going in sections, so I actually get to it. Because if I don't do that, I am very likely to just blow around my face and around my neck, and then this center portion stays wet, and that's not fun. Also, it does not help with volume. The cool thing is that when you do this, your roots are tamed into the shape that they need to be to give you more lift, and therefore help to expand the overall silhouette of your hair. And final benefit of doing this is that I find when I blow dry my hair, I get at least 1 to 2 more days out of it before I need to wash it again, which is always a plus in my book. Okay, so that has been wet styling, and I do think that it is so key. It helps you to lay your fullness foundation, you know, plumping the strands, adding structure, lifting, all crucial elements to our final results. But there are also a lot of things you can do once your hair is dry, and I would love to talk about that now. Tip number 5, take up space. I mean, just generally in life, but also with your hair. So let's just think about hair in like a very basic silhouette. If it is straight, it is taking up the least side-to-side space possible. And side to side is how we kind of tend to evaluate fullness. Like, we don't think about it, but that's what our little brains are doing while we're looking at hair. When it takes up more room side to side, we're like, ooh, it's more full. So if you have your hair completely straight and you pare it down to a very basic silhouette, it's basically 2 straight lines, which takes up very little side to side room. But if you add in bends or curls or waves, your hair and the shape that it makes and the silhouette that it has starts going more side to side, which gives your eye the immediate impression of fullness because you're taking up that lateral space. So you can think about ways to add in or embrace bends, waves, or curls in order to help your hair just take up more space and therefore be a little bit more full and voluminous looking. But not to fear, if you like wearing your hair straight, there are a few ways that you can work with that as well. You can work with texture, so you can work with like a texturizing spray, you can work with thickening products, you can use our lifting techniques, but also you can evaluate your haircut, because the more blunt your hair is at the ends, or less layered your hair is, the more you have this horizontal line that is going side to side that is making things look thicker. Like, my hair is not like a straight line, but it does all come right here and you have the horizontal line, which does help with the fullness. You can also add in diagonal lines or horizontal lines around your face. A bang is a horizontal line. Curtain bangs would be diagonal lines. Face framing, also diagonal lines. And that can help to move things laterally a little bit as well, just to take up more of that side to side space. So that's like the general idea, right? We either want to cut in or style in some more side-to-side visual interest. And I really want to go in on different ways that you can utilize your waving or curling techniques to really get the maximum amount of full lookingness out of them. So tip number 6 is to go small. The smaller the sections you take, the more sections you have, the bigger your hair is. It's that simple, really. And you don't have to go crazy with this. You can do tiny sections all over your head, or you can do slightly smaller sections from the ears up. And it can be very, very tiny sections, or you can just go a little bit smaller than you normally would. Also, if your hair is harder to curl, going in smaller sections can help you to curl your hair a little bit better, which obviously also helps the final result. Tip number 7, change it up. Now my braidaholics, y'all know this one. But just to recap, and for the newbies, if you curl your hair, every single piece, in the same direction, it is all going to fit together like so many Lego pieces or so many spoons in a utensil drawer, and it takes up less room. It makes the line thinner. So the answer to that is to throw in some curls going the opposite direction of where you're curling from. It can be every other curl, it can be every few curls, but adding in those little randoms can keep the curls from being able to all sit together. And instead they stack up on top of each other and create that bigger side-to-side effect, which is what we're going for. And tip number 8 is set it to cool. Now we've talked about side-to-side volume a bit in the last few minutes. Let's also talk about the importance of bounce in hair, just to make it look fuller and like healthier and like all of those things. The bounce can be very important, and a really great way to get that in there is to set it while your hair cools. I think a lot of times we think that when you put your hair on the curling iron, that's when you form the curl. No, the curl forms when your hair cools down. So if you take it off the curling iron and you just let it sit, gravity and your hair's willingness or unwillingness to curl are going to come into effect, and you are actually losing curl until it finishes cooling. Whereas if you wind the hair back up into a little donut shape and pin it against your head while it cools, it has to cool in that curled shape, and that's gonna give you so much more springiness. And you can always find a workaround for it. You can, instead of clipping up all of the curls, just clip up the ones from the ears up, whatever. But doing a little bit of that can really, really help to add more fullness to the hair and also just better, longer results to your curls. And those are some of your options for adding in a little bit more fullness once your hair is dry. If you want to go in with the hot tools, those are some tips and tricks that you can use to get your best results. And now I want to finish by focusing on what you can do as finishing touches to really just drive it all the way home. Which brings us to tip number 9, texturizing spray. Now I love a texturizing spray. Today's hero is the Bumble and Bumble Thickening Dry Spun Texture Spray. All you have to do is shake it up and spray wherever you want to see lift and texture, and it creates instant airy volume that holds its texture all day. The cool thing about this is that it has zeolite and silk powders that sit on the hair and get that fuller look. I really like this texturizing spray because it feels lovely on the hair and it's really effective. I feel like you could use this product and the Bumble and Bumble Thickening Plumping Mask and it would be all you need for a really full, beautiful result. Just generally, texturizing sprays are super helpful for getting that extra texture. It gives you the powder that helps your hair to take up a little bit more space. It also really helps with a quick hit of volume if you find that you need it at the end of your style. And it's a really good refresh on day 2 or 3 if you also need. So overall, it's just a really great add-in for a fullness routine, and one that I don't go without. Like when people ask me oh, what's a product you would never live without? I'm like, leave-in conditioner and texturizing spray. That's pretty much it. And don't make me choose between the two because I actually cannot. Tip number 10 is to fill it in. This one's a little random, but I stay recommending this, and every now and then I pull it out and it just makes the biggest difference. That is to grab a brow powder or really any powder that's close to the color of your roots and use it to fill in your hairline and or your scalp just to make everything look a little fuller there. Now I style my hair forward so you don't always see my hairline, but anytime I pull my hair back, it helps so much to fill in my hairline and it makes me feel like I have so much more fullness and thickness there. But you can also use it on your scalp, and that can be really helpful if for whatever reason you want to kind of cover up any scalp showing or you want to make your scalp a little bit less obvious. It's so subtle, but it can make such such a big difference. So I like to throw that possibility out there. It's not a necessity, but I feel like for some people it can be a really exciting option. And tip number 11 is dry shampoo. Who likes to stretch out their time between washes? Me. If I spend all that time with a volumizing blow dry and styling my hair, you best bet I want multiple days out of it. Enter dry shampoo. We opened this whole discussion by talking about how important it is to make sure your hair isn't too weighed down. Dry shampoo can help to absorb that oil that builds up throughout the days so that you have less weight down. If you find your hair starts to look a little flat on day 2 or day 3, pull out a dry shampoo. It will make a lot of difference. Also, maybe pull out a little texturizing spray if you want just that extra hit. Oh, so there you go. Those are some of my tricks for fuller, bouncier looking hair. I hope that this really helped you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any that I didn't mention, leave them in the comments down below. I love to learn more, and I'm sure the rest of the Braidaholics would love to hear as well. Thank you again to Bumble and Bubble for working with me on today's video and for making such amazing new products. I am so excited about them. You guys can check them out on Ulta.com. They will be linked below. I highly recommend. But with all that said, I think that is it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you got some new ideas around tips and tricks for fuller looking hair. Leave me in the comments what you guys want to see next. I am brainstorming and I could definitely use the ideas. But with all that said, if you did enjoy today's video, I hope that you'll hit that like button to help support my channel. If you're new here, you can hit that subscribe button to join the Braidaholic family here on KayleyMelissa, and all y'all can hit that bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. But that's it for today. Whether you're old or new or a casual lurker, thank you for spending time with me, and I'll see you in my next video. Mwah! Bye! Bumble and Bumble thickening plumping mask. Sorry, I had that backwards. Number 9. Honestly, if a camera was following me today, we would have so many bloopers. Guys, it was one of those days. Everything but ran straight into a wall today. My mic died. I curled my hair the wrong way the first time and had to redo it. Wait, and I changed my shirt. Did I change my shirt in the middle of the video? What a day.